Broadcasting live from RISKWORLD 2022 at the Moscone Center in San Francisco, it's time for Workplace MVP, brought to you by R3 Continuum, a global leader in helping workplaces thrive during disruptive times. Now, here's your host.
Hi, everyone. Your host, Jamie Gassmann here, broadcasting to you from RISKWORLD 2022 at the R3 Continuum booth. And joining me is Pamela Bradshaw from Varsity Brands. Welcome, Pamela.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about what Varsity Brands does.
Yes, Varsity Brands is based in Farmers Branch, Texas, which is Dallas, Texas. Comprised of three corporations: BSN Sports, which you've seen all the high school and collegiate sports, whether it's football, basketball, tennis, uniforms. We do the apparel as well as distribution and sales. Another company is called Varsity Spirit, and you've heard of cheerleaders. So you have the cheerleading competition, dance competitions, and all the products related to that for sales. And also Herff Jones. Herff Jones is an older company of Varsity Brands. I know you've seen all the class rings and diplomas and cap and gowns, and so we manufacture those as well and distribute.
Wonderful. And so what is your role at Varsity Brands? What do you do for them?
I am the Director of Risk Management. I oversee all the procurement for all the insurance programs, the insurance renewals, oversee the claims. I also oversee anything related to risk control. And I'm new to the company. I just joined the company actually a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
So is this the first time you've been to RIMS, or have you come a couple times?
Actually, over the last, I've been in the industry over 35 years. So I've been at least 10 or 15 RIMS conferences, and this has been, of course, the first for a lot of us due to the pandemic in the last 2 years. So happy to be here.
Wonderful. And I know we're in day 2 of it, but how's it been going for you so far in terms of sessions and other things that you've been sitting through?
So far, busy, meeting with our broker. I have another meeting after this, as a matter of fact. But highlighting my session today, that's just the main reason why I'm here is for the session that I'm a part of. I'm part of the DFW RIMS chapter. And I submitted a session regarding our next generation and the upcoming risk professional, the minority perspective. Wow. And so that's today at 1:30 p.m. in room 205. So a little plug there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so tell me a little bit about what are some of the things you're going to be covering in that presentation and talking about?
Sure. I have a panelist. Actually, there's 3 panelists, young risk professionals. We really want to focus on how the next generation sort of can bridge the gap. As I mentioned before, a lot of us who have been in the industry for some time, we notice that there's a gap over the years in terms of training, as far as developing the young professional so that they can take on the jobs and responsibilities that we have in their organizations from a risk perspective. And specifically for the minority, I do have a panelist who's an Asian American. I have an African American male. I also have a black female. She's actually South African. And so we want to make sure that they feel included from a DEI perspective. I think that a lot of companies toot their horn on being inclusive and also being a DEI corporation, but we're noticing there's not enough action in making sure that there's representation of these individuals. And so that's the focus.
That's fantastic. So it's not just words that are being spoken, but actually putting something into motion that's going to help to kind of address, building that program from an inclusive perspective.
Absolutely.
And you're almost like, in a way, the presentation sounds like you're kind of helping them to establish that legacy of professionals that'll be coming up the chain of command. That's incredible.
Absolutely. We see a lot of, in our industry, a lot of retirements and due to the, of course, the migration, if you will, great resignation, if you will, what's happening post-pandemic, it's very, very vital that we make sure that our industry survives, not just from the technical piece of it, but just the equality from, equal pay, from making sure that we're in the room, making sure that that glass ceiling is not concrete. So we want to make sure they understand that they can and achieve anything they want to achieve in this industry, just as we have. It's just that we were a little bit shy about it from a female, being a black female. In particular, we were quite a bit shy coming up and fearful that there would be retaliation if we spoke up. I think this generation, the generations coming up, the millennials and the Gen Zs, Gen X, Y, and Zs, they're speaking up. And I think it's fair to say that because of their voices being heard, that companies are now understanding, because they are the consumer and the buyer, not just from risk management for all industries, that is important that we listen. We make sure that we listen to them.
Absolutely. And there's so much value in having a very diverse work environment.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's so many perspectives that different individuals can bring to a conversation, even business decisions.
Absolutely.
That, if you've just one mind and one approach, you're losing an opportunity for some comprehensive, more integrated approaches that can actually strengthen your business's outcomes. So that's fantastic.
And ultimately increase sales. Because your reach is a lot farther than if you just stay a homogeneous product. Your reach is definitely a lot farther, and the ideas that come again from not just the younger generation, but from a cultural standpoint, your reaching is just so much further to the audience and to the ultimate consumer.
Yeah, well, and your employees perform better when they feel like they have inclusive leadership, when they feel like they have a leader that wants to take that time to understand what makes them tick as a human.
Absolutely.
And bringing, tapping into some of those, perspectives and strengths that they have that, I love that your presentation is like creating empowerment is the word that's coming to my mind as I'm listening to you.
Absolutely.
Empowering people to be, let your voice be heard and bring your story to the leaders at your organization. So that's fantastic.
Absolutely. And I'm excited. I think that there's quite a few young professionals here in the risk industry. And so they're eager. They want to learn. They're ready to learn. And we have to be responsive to that.
Yeah. So if there are 3 takeaways, I always ask my guests that are speakers, the 3 takeaways that you want that audience to be left with that when they walk out of that room after hearing that panel, what would they be?
I would say number 1, that we hear you. Number 2, that we are learning to understand you. I think as a seasoned professional, we have a tendency to think that we know it all and that we've learned so much that we can't quite see the fact that the younger ones we can learn just as much from them as we do from each other as seasoned risk professionals. And then I would say the speak out. Continue to do that, because I truly believe the next generation, they are going to change the world. Yeah. And they're going to change the way that we do business, especially post-pandemic. Things are not going to be the same. I think we need to get over that. They're not going to be the same. And so how do we develop a new normal, a new way of thinking? And the younger generations are definitely showing us and telling us that they're willing, ready, and able to do that.
Oh, it sounds like a wonderful presentation. I wish you luck. I hope it goes well. I'm sure it will. Just hearing the topic and how you're presenting it here on the show, I know you're going to do a fantastic job.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate your time for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being a guest.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Workplace MVP. R3 Continuum is a proud sponsor of this show and is delighted to celebrate most valuable professionals who work diligently to secure safe workplaces where employees can thrive.